Be bold, take a chance, and contribute more than you might think an average technology leader would contribute. Lean in a little bit, and you'd be surprised at the impact you can make.
Welcome to our 25th episode of Leading with Relevance. Today we're featuring Sean Kramer, my friend, and I love to talk to people who are busting through the status quo and impacting companies and communities, and this certainly applies to Sean. My goal is to interview and highlight the personal and professional journeys and each leader's why, as Simon Sinek would say. And for the listeners, we're looking for practical insights you can apply to your leadership pathway. I'm Tino Mantella, Chief Strategy Officer for Relevance, and I love the opportunity to talk to people in these leadership roles. I always learn something, and I think it's a great opportunity for our listeners as well. So today I have the pleasure of interviewing, as I said, my friend Sean Kramer. Sean is my second guest in a three-part series featuring CIOs and CTOs that have become presidents and CEOs. Before I bring Sean on the podcast, I'd love to tell you a little bit about him. He's currently president of Brook Safety Solutions, which is a premier fire, life safety, and security solution provider. And he joined the team in November 25. He's a graduate of Central Michigan University with a degree in business administration and information systems. He also has an MS in business administration technology from Walsh College and an MBA in finance from University of Michigan and an MS in finance and corporate finance from the University of Michigan. Prior to joining BSS, he had a 10-year stint as VP of Digital and Technology at SiteOne. And during his time at SiteOne, Sean was tasked with building and scaling digital IT platforms. As I got to know Sean, and we worked with him through Relevance, many other things. He's known in the industry to focus on pragmatic modernization, connecting tech operations, compliance, and customer experience. And he's been active in the community over the years, supporting ATP and TAG. And I can tell you firsthand, he's unique in terms of his willingness to connect with the tech and non-tech leaders in his community, going above and beyond and to provide support. And on a personal side, Sean is a fan of the best team in the NFL that's never won the Super Bowl, but have come close recently, the Detroit Lions. So we're both big fans of the Lions, and this might be their year. So Sean, welcome to Leading with Relevance.
Thanks, Tino. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll have to talk offline about if this is going to be their year or not, but it's great to have you. I'd love to start the conversation just talking about the early part of your life. What shaped you, maybe snapshot of your early years, two or three people that influenced you?
I'm the youngest of four, so I grew up in a family of six in Michigan. My parents shaped me quite a bit. My dad worked at this plant that was focused on metal treatment, and he it wouldn't be uncommon for him to put 10, 12-hour days. So it was a blue collar job.
Yeah.
And he would get up at 4 a.m. and he'd be on the road to the shop by 4:30. So there wouldn't be a lot that would disrupt that weather. Usually there was no snow days. And then my mother was kind of like a homemaker and a babysitter. So they shaped my upbringing, very focused on discipline, accountability, but they were encouraging, especially when it was an opportunity to be creative and try new things. They liked to encourage all of us to do that. And I had three great siblings. Like I said, I was the youngest of four. So two older brothers and an older sister. We have great relationships with them today. And we just always had a common interest in each other's success, which was important. So we're competitive by nature, but we always wanted to see each other succeed. And that's why we had such close relationships
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so you ended up going into a variety of things. Technology certainly seemed to be a base. Given your parents didn't sound like they were totally into that. How did you end up selecting that field ultimately for your career?
Well, in my undergrad, I must have had 14 or 15 majors that I switched.
Okay.
Um, I early on in high school, I thought I wanted to go into broadcasting, and that type of thing. I thought I had the face for radio, the but I tried that. I tried a few other things, internships. I went into logistics, um, accounting and finance, but IT and information systems always evolving, always changing. So it seemed like it would be a fresh area to go into, be fun. You could be, like I said earlier, creative. So um, it was at the last minute where I decided to go into that discipline. But it was also one of the most popular and growing majors too. So
Yeah.
I thought it would be a fun career to explore.
Yeah, and it sounded like you pretty much tried everything else too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
might as well try technology. Other any other lessons you want to talk about from your early career? Kind of what shaped your leadership approach?
Yeah, I mean, I started off in automotive and I got experience with some great leaders. Um, the automotive environment enabled the usage of tech early on relative to other industries. So
Yeah.
they would be more than willing to invest in tech and experiment. Um, but one of the key things that I learned is you could be as an innovative and wanting to have a strong desire to try new things. But if you can't handle the blocking and tackling, you're not going to build the credibility. So um, most folks look at the usage of their systems or applications on a daily basis as a utility. So everything needs to work with consistently and optimal performance. That will enable you to kind of evolve and try new things. So that was a strong takeaway of earlier on in my career when I worked in automotive.
So you're a parent of three, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a parent of three,
Right.
two boys and a woman, or
Yep.
two boys and a girl.
Yep.
How does being a parent influence how you build teams and make big decisions in terms of putting it in the business context?
Yeah. Well, you lead with humility, understanding that whether you're a parent or a leader in your organization, you're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes, nor should you expect that from your kids or the folks that work for you. Um, you know, as a parent, I didn't always feel like I was doing the right thing. So there's a lot
Yeah,
of trial and error,
for sure.
especially with the oldest one. Um, but you kind of ground yourself on those principles of the golden rule and take a hard right versus the easy left. Doing right by your family, by God, by your community. And so those were some of the core principles that we tried to institute in our household. Now, obviously, when you work for an organization, that's a little different. Um, but what I've noticed in the past is those teams that collaborate and have shared success are the ones that win most consistently, and consistency is what organizations want to see. They want to see the ability to deliver and take action on what you say you're going to on a regular basis. So um, I think that is what was important to me earlier on in my career, and that's continued to be important as I've grown up in the last few years.
And so, same question related to fitness. I know you're a fitness buff, and your kids, one's plays football for John Hopkins, the other's at Blessed Trinity into sports, and your daughter just got a scholarship, I believe, to Central Michigan, where you and your wife went. And so, how does sports and fitness contribute and influence your leadership style?
Um, well, it's the personal fitness is about being disciplined and consistent,
Yeah.
and um, so that is you carry that over whether it's in your personal life and your business life. Around athletics, I think it's important to compete, try new things, and be and establish the ability to respond to failure. And
Yeah.
most whether regardless of the sport, most of us, especially in some of the sports I play, namely golf, failure is a regular occurrence. But
Right.
but you learn, you adjust, and you try again. And so whether that's kids in elementary, middle, or high school playing athletics or in the professional world, and sometimes those important lessons can be overlooked or forgotten. But um, learning how to fail is a lot more important than learning how to handle success. Handling success is easy. Um, and, the great Vince Lombardi said, you strive for perfection, knowing that won't be achieved, but you'll achieve excellence along the way. And that's kind of the perspective I have when it comes to competing, whether it's on the field, the court, the classroom, or in the boardroom.
And do you think your style is different with your teams because of, accepting, say, fail fast or what have you? Is that the way you try to lead?
Yeah, I mean, um, I'm I'm big in experimentation and understanding and measuring the results and understanding what's success and what's failure. Going into it with an expectation that not everything that you try is going to work out, but it's also important to how you go about that. And so I avoid any big bang changes as much as possible, and I gravitate towards piloting in small groups with very focused business cases and very measurable results, um, and just continue to test, see what can work.
Yeah, that's great. We had the interview recently with John Trainer, who became a leader in a company, and we have Jay Farrow following you, two guys that I know you know. And they're kind of a hoot when you're when you're interviewing them as well. I'm sure Jay will be, John was. Um, and so this series, I thought it'd be interesting because a lot of people that listen to this podcast are CIOs and CTOs, and some have a path or they want a path to that next level of leadership. So I thought, important question that they'll want to hear is, what's the same, what's different, and how have you been adjusting to that new role?
Yeah. Well, there's many lessons that you can learn in managing technology. I joke around with some of my direct reports. Everything's a if then else statement. So, it's cause and effect. And from an engineering standpoint, when you grow up in the technology side of things, you have to learn not only the end-to-end process, but you have to have contingency plans in case something goes awry. And that's relative to any really business unit of an organization, whether you're over indexed on one customer to hit your sales number or over indexed on a supplier to provide the right products to your customers. It's important to continue to stay hungry and compete and build contingency plans, um, in whatever you do. And so that's where I think the technology world, with the understanding of the end-to-end processes, everything an organization really steps through nowadays is running on some technology in the back end. So that end-to-end process, that perspective, cradle to grave mindset is important in all factions, not just the technology realm.
And you always had a P&L, at Site One, any organization you've been, so you have ownership in that. Certainly, we all do as you have different parts of the business. What was the hardest mindset shift you had when you became, president?
Yeah, so when I was at Site One, one of the biggest challenges we had was launching e-commerce. And we work in B2B distribution here at Brooks like we did at Site One. So you can't really come at it from a retail standpoint. It's a business to business relationship where your sales organization has an intimate understanding of who your customer is and how they operate. It's much different than a retail experience. So um, learning how to adjust to make technology easier for other businesses to do business with us didn't happen overnight. And you have to really learn the business processes of your customer and understanding how they operate day in and day out. And then you build customer facing systems that literally give them a competitive advantage against their customers if they use those products. So that was very important to our success at Site One around the e-commerce rollout. The other thing is, you know, having a deep dive understanding into your customer behavior through customer analytics. So customer profiling, whether it's a certain line of business they do, they work within, obviously, the products lines that they buy, the geography and the size. All of that's important, and you can't have a one size fits all approach to those customers because they have different needs, obviously. So building a system that's customer facing, focused on the 80-20 rule, because you can really get spun around the axle trying to build all the features and functions that might come from customers that might represent the squeaky wheel, but may not also represent the needs of the majority. So I think that's when you're looking at building technology that provides flexibility to your customers. If that is the North Star, then that can give you a competitive advantage, and that's where I've seen success in the past.
So looking back in your career, which phase of your career best prepared you for, the role that you have now?
Um, I think each and every
Yeah.
phase, right? Early on, I was more of an individual contributor, or I got opportunities to lead small groups. And the learning experiences from those positions were, core and fundamental. So it's like a building block. Like all of
Yeah.
those lead to a different phase. Um, I just think I referenced it earlier. I think leading with humility, um, and when you interact with anybody within the organization, I've sat in almost all of their chairs, um,
Yeah.
at least on the technology side in the past. But being able to relate to everybody within your organization is important because as a leader, that'll enable you to figure out how you can make their jobs easier. My goal is for everybody that works within our organization or our customers for me I'm focused on removing roadblocks and hurdles to make it easier for us to scale, grow, and provide better customer service.
Because you've been in those chairs, I think an interesting point is, how do you control the thought if you do that? No, here's how you do it. I've done it this way, versus giving them some room because you've been there and you've seen it. So it's like you can see you're, kind of hitting your head against the wall sometimes, saying, I don't think that's going to work. But how do you approach that?
Well, you know, I, I'm always focused on building a team of top performers. If you have a
Yeah.
team of top performers, you don't need to necessarily be directive.
Yeah.
And then the conversations are more strategic and they're more bi-directional. So I think it really matters on who you've built your team upon. Now, when I have more interaction with folks that are less experienced earlier
Yeah.
on in their careers, obviously you push them in the right direction where you see an opportunity because ultimately you build credibility by the actions, not the things that you talk about. So, talk is cheap, actions speak louder than words. So it's always a balance in between being directive where you think you know the solution and pushing the team in the direction or letting them come up with the solutions they pick and potentially, watching them fail or succeed and learn from it. If you have more flexibility with your timeline, then you can enable them to experiment a little bit.
Yeah.
It depends on the problems you're trying to solve and how quickly they need to be solved.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, going back to the move from technology role to president or CEO role, what would you advise others looking to make that jump?
For others looking to make the jump, look for an opportunity to leverage the knowledge that you gain through implementing the systems that you're responsible for and supporting the business in a more effective way. Every business leader wants to hear about how they could save money. Every business leader wants to hear how they can optimize their business processes, and being responsible for the technology would enable you to do that. Obviously, um, every aspect of technology is now really tied to growing a business and selling more product or services to their customers. So it's it's very important for a technology team and a technology leader to just learn the ins and outs and leverage that knowledge that you've gained from the business side to contribute in other ways outside of the technology department. Um, I think folks would be surprised, or associates at particular organizations would be surprised at how much they could contribute to those discussions. And sometimes it's important to be bold per se and get that seat at the table when there's an opportunity to contribute as much as you can. Obviously, sales is king in almost every organization. So
Yeah.
the more you can learn about the sales process and the tools in place, and how AI can improve the sales staff to go after the customers, um, to whether they're selling products or services, I think is where a technologist could really step to the forefront of the organization and be viewed as a business leader that's going to make a significant impact versus just a technologist per se.
Yeah, and it seems like in the last maybe 10 years, I was saying to John that we used to laugh when I ran tag, saying that the CIOs and the technologists, we don't know what they're doing in the back room, but you kind of slide a pizza under the door and you
Sure.
figure out what they're doing. And now, with the security, CISOs, CIOs, there really seems like there's more of opportunity to be sitting around that leadership table with the CEO and the rest of the leaders. So that
Yeah,
makes it look big.
honestly, I see technology leaders, you know, they don't always lead with the confidence that they should lead with. Like they
Yeah.
could step up and contribute in a significant way. I think you're seeing that more and more, but I wish some of the technology leaders would take more of a risk. And and I think that how they would be able to contribute to some of those conversations, strategic conversations on how to grow the business, is important. And so that's why I said be bold. Like, take a chance and contribute more than you might think an average technology leader would contribute. Lean in a little bit, and you'd be surprised at the impact you can make.
Yeah, that's great advice.
So, you know, with Brooks and how we go to market with our customers, we we talk to them on a regular basis, and we learn what their needs are, and we try to build those products to enable them to, whether it's manage their labor a little bit more effectively, get the products they need to the job site on a regular basis, and do it for a fair price. That's what we're focused on, but we're very diversified. We have a couple of services companies.
Right.
We sell products that save lives. There can't be much of a delay in receiving those products, and a large focus going forward is e-commerce. So balancing that communication that you regularly have with the customer with a lot with the same at the same time enabling them to use a system that may reduce some of the dialogue, but if they're ordering products that they already know what they need, and they don't really need to learn about what new offerings we have. They just want to place the order and get the product in a day or so. We can do that. So we try to be as flexible and fill whatever void we can, uh, depending on what the customer's needs are.
Known you long enough, I think I see kind of methodical, steady pace, not too slow, but also, not going breakneck speed where and you already kind of identified that early in our conversation. But maybe you see companies that you've worked with or your partners, other CIOs. The question is, what breaks first when companies scale too fast, and how do you prevent that?
Well, so there's whether it's at Brooks or Site One, there's organic growth and inorganic growth.
Right.
And so, and it's important to feed both of those beasts. Um, and so inorganic growth makes operations exceptionally complicated. Because in both experiences, you go out there and you evaluate different companies that are performing well in the market, that look like they could be a good fit into the family. And odds are, their back end processes, technology is completely different than what you have in place today. So organic growth is really going out there and hunting your new customers, which isn't easy to always be aware of the customers that are stood up in fire life safety, right? It's a very fragmented market, and there's different needs in different geographies. There's different presences in different geographies. What we noticed with some of our customers is there's more and more roll-ups happening. So they're going through the same inorganic growth experiences that we are. So and that enables us to mind share a little bit what processes have worked better for us that in some instances the customers can take. But it's a balance of the standard operating sales processes as to how to go to market, expand share of wallet with your existing customers, maintain a close relationship to better understand their needs, and then better understand what new customers are out there in the market and how we can service them more on the organic side versus inorganic. Is this an existing line of business? Is this an adjacent in like part of the industry that we
Hmm.
don't have an established line of business or leader for, and figuring out how that's going to fit within the organization. We're trying to, from a tech and back end standpoint, simplify as much as possible because our business is complicated. So there's a lot of you could put a fire extinguisher in a box and ship it, or it could be 3 or 4 pallets. So there's a lot of quantity breaks that play a role in that, and obviously there's some logistical needs for those as well. So we just try to avoid boiling the ocean, and for the most important processes that we have at Brooks, we try to ground ourselves in. It needs to be able to be described on a cocktail napkin. So if it's too complicated and it's over engineered, it will probably be difficult to scale into. Um, and, there's always a happy balance between simplification um, and then, the ability to scale. You can't make everything that you do like simple, but if you put it at the core of your foundation, usually um, you establish processes and technology that work in an optimized fashion. So that's what's proven to be the biggest challenge here at Brooks, and we dealt with it at Site One is how you're going to handle the inorganic growth at the
Hmm.
same time you're trying to rev the engine for organic growth to continue to develop.
So we've gone 35 minutes and I haven't asked the AI question yet.
So AI, uh, it it's it's more established in the kind of the enterprise platforms right now.
Right.
And so where we're looking at using those are in your CRMs, your ERPs, and with the goal of um, enhancing efficiency and productivity. And look, like you're just as dependent on the users and the people in your organization as the technology, if not more so dependent on the people. So um, that's another common theme that we try to reiterate is automation should be where your head goes first when you're looking at how to use technology. And we still have, I think it's easy for us to gravitate towards entering in data into a spreadsheet, Word doc, whatnot. Whereas what we need to start altering our minds as to how we can use technology to move data in a quick and efficient way. So that's, as it relates to the Brooks and how we use or how we're looking to enable AI, it's around efficiencies and in the back end. So enabling automated invoices to flow directly through our system that would allow us to pay our suppliers or receive payment from our customers in a more quick and efficient way. Now we're going to crawl, walk, run because our back end systems aren't as modern as you would think. So we're working with an outdated tech stack right now. We're trying to upgrade the core ERP to a modern tech stack, and then we're going to introduce AI as a part of the finance and operations, then the WMS processes in the back end.
Got it. From my experience doing a couple different things, as you know, I'm seeing lots of calls from young grads that are having trouble getting their first job. Any advice you'd give to aspiring college tech-oriented grads readying for their first role?
Yeah, be focus on AI first.
Yeah,
So the technology leaders, managers, whomever that could be hiring that college grad, they're probably still trying to learn about the tools that are available, what those tools can do. They're going through a learning curve while they're managing their day-to-day business. So I think right out of school, what would give recent college grads competitive advantages was showing evidence of how they use those tools in their projects or throughout the program that they just graduated from. The other thing is, so AI is easy. That's an easy thing to gravitate towards, but
yeah,
I would just say show evidence of what are those tangible characteristics that set you apart. So, um, give an example of a project that you took accountability or a leadership role on. Talk about, be transparent, talk about the struggles that you went through, talk about the failures you experienced, and talk about what you learned from them. I feel like there's so much pressure on recent college grads to just talk about all of the wins, but
yeah.
sometimes talking about a loss and what you learned from them would resonate with the person you're interviewing with more so than just the wins. So we all understand it's not rainbows and unicorns, whether you're in college or you're in the professional world. So um, focus on the wins, the losses, and the personal characteristics that kind of were elevated through those experiences.
That's good advice also. And then this is a good segue. It's almost like you knew what my next question was going to be, but many times we learn more from failure as a leader or a misstep than we do with a win. So can you share a time when you faced a setback and you turned it into a learning opportunity?
Yeah, I've had a lot.
Yeah, we all
I've
have.
had a lot of opportunities, a lot of failures, and and if you're a competitive person, it bothers you, but you also it motivates you to kind of take your lessons learned and do what you can to ensure that you don't make the same mistake twice. Earlier on in my career, when I was at Site One, we launched SiteOne.com, their e-commerce platform, and I think there was a lot of communication going back and forth about how positive the site was, the positive progress that we're seeing, how the site was developing, but we weren't really getting the traffic. We weren't seeing transactions, and I felt like when we were months into it, we just weren't being honest with ourselves, and I think we dragged that out too long before we took a step back and said that we needed to develop a different perspective on the product that we recently produced. And we developed a retail site and we doubled down on customer feedback. We went back out to the market. I took full ownership of the area at that point in time. And we actually made it more of a practical system to use and less flashy, less of a retail experience.
Hmm.
And, you normally wouldn't expect um, those changes to really gain traction, but we did. And we then continued to talk to the customers, different customers, found out what was important to them. And then we tried to be as agile as we possibly could, taking their idea, providing some mock-ups, and putting it into the system. Um, and we started to gain traction, month by month, and then it just started to take off. So I would say what I learned from that experience was I should have trusted my gut earlier on, because what we were almost trying to convince ourselves that the path we were going on was the right one, and there was no data to back that up, and data is king. So if you're not seeing the data, you're not seeing the traffic, you're not seeing the sales, stop kidding yourself and choose a different direction. So my regret in that case was I kind of wish I would have pulled the plug a little bit earlier than I did. But um, I think when you grow up supporting technology, or you grow up with that mindset, you want to measure twice and cut once. And so you almost want to take more time to just solidify and be sure. And you don't always trust your gut. But in that case, I should have trusted my gut, and I made a quicker decision rather than waiting it out.
Yeah, trust your gut is actually works a lot of times. So I appreciate you saying that. You hear a lot, I think, in the last several years. I won't pin it on Generation Z or whatever, but work-life balance, is that a thing? How do you approach it? I know you're very committed to not just work, but families.
Yeah, so I mean, family always comes first for everybody. Whether it's the chairman of a board, CEO, or it should, right?
Yeah,
That's my
should.
philosophy. So that's always the priority. Um, Look, I think work-life balance is based on passion for what you do. So if you're passionate for what you're doing, if you're staying late, working early, or working during non-business hours, it's not work. It's your passion.
Right.
So I think that's important. Now you have to be mindful of the fact that who you're trying to communicate to, you could be exhausting, overloading them. So you need to be mindful of the extra time that you're putting in. But um, as soon as you feel like you're stale, bored, and it's actually work, you're either in the wrong discipline, or you're in the wrong position, or you're at the wrong company, is my perspective. So
Yeah.
um, when you're passionate about what you're doing, you're going to put your best foot forward, and you're going to produce your best results. And it just it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like work. So um, I think it's important, rather than looking at a time clock and looking about the amount of hours or whatnot. I think it's important to just find something that you love, and that you're passionate about, that's important to you, and then it won't seem as if it's work, and your work-life balance will just happen naturally.
Yeah, it's interesting. Most of the people I've interviewed have sort of been on that same track, and I think feeling like, why did people separate work like it was something drudgery, and then life is the other part of it versus work being just part of life and you're enjoying it, right? So, good point. So, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Um, don't overthink it. Don't stress out. Put your health as the top priority. I think that often gets overlooked, whether it's your physical or mental health. Make that your top priority, because if it's what you focus on, then you're going to be performing your best for the company that you're working for. So probably earlier on in my career, I would get stressed out about whether or not I felt like I performed in a meeting, boardroom, on a particular project. And in some cases, you're overanalyzing it. You just need to move on, and put your next foot forward. So I feel like folks that are aspirational, that's a common problem, because they just want to make sure that they're doing the right thing and they're continuing to make progress. But the stress that induces can sometimes weigh you down and hold you back. So, um, and sometimes just having a coach or a mentor or someone older than you, even a relative that you trust, those are usually the folks that emerge that say, you're overthinking this.
Yeah.
It's probably not as bad as you think. Go ahead and move on and keep your eye on the prize.
Great. If you could leave our listeners, given this is leading with relevance, one piece of advice regarding relevant leadership, what would it be?
I would say one piece of advice would be just focus on extreme ownership. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, try to impact every aspect of not just your role or your responsibilities, but try to impact every aspect of that company in a positive way. And yes, it's important to work within a team and collaborate, but accountability and responsibility to me is king. And that's a key attribute that and I've seen be successful with leaders from afar and leaders that I've worked with directly. So take extreme ownership, take accountability, um, and just be there for your teammates. And everything usually will work out the way that you want it to work out.
That's a great way to end it, Sean. Thank you for joining me on Leading with Relevance.
Thank you, Tino.